Hello and welcome to the in-news series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Divedi, and in this segment today, we are going to talk about how China has time and again kept on claiming Arunachal Pradesh, and it has done it so by standardizing names for 15 regions in Arunachal Pradesh, and how it is going to have any impacts on the bilateral relations as well as the history. Everything we will include. So specifically from the perspective of prelims, the geography, and of course, history of Arunachal Pradesh is important. And if we talk about the GS Mains Paper 2 in International Relations, of course, it's very important from that perspective as well. As we look at these many topics, you will be able to cover a lot of them. So let's begin with the news. Now, this topic is in the news because China has issued a list of standardized names for 15 regions in Arunachal Pradesh, and that has raised issues with respect to the bilateral relations between India and China. Now, Arunachal Pradesh, also known as the Northeastern Frontier Agency, since 1972 it has become the 24th state of India. It has remained a bone of contention between China and India, because China considers Arunachal Pradesh, specifically the Tawang region of Arunachal Pradesh, which it calls Tibet, as Zangna. So it says that Arunachal Pradesh is actually South Tibet, and that is the entire issue. So as you can see, China issues official names for 15 places in Arunachal Pradesh. Now, the current matter is not very new. That means it has been into conversation among the Chinese media since this year itself, since the month of March, when it was said that Arunachal Pradesh's 15 specific regions will have official names to come into effect from the 1st of January 2022. And it was because the current scenario between India and China is not very rosy. We are already witnessing the issues with with the Chinese or territorial aggression in the Ladakh region, specifically the western region that we have with China as our border, the Ladakh region, and now it has done it again from the official point of view, from the diplomatic point of view, that Arunachal is being claimed by it. So, standardized names for 15 places in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh has been given by China, and it will reflect on the official map of China from 1st January 2022 with the proper coordinates. The coordinates lie in the region of India. Now, that are to be used henceforth for Chinese maps, official Chinese maps, and India's Ministry of External Affairs said that Beijing's move is not appropriate, and also it does not alter the fact that Arunachal Pradesh is not South Tibet but an integral part of India. But India has said that China doing it unilaterally, it is going to impact the bilateral relations. And the law was proposed in March of this year. The 15 places which were named on Thursday include 8 residential areas, 4 mountains, 2 rivers and 1 mountain pass. And these are very strategic in nature, not only for China, but very important for India as well. Now, if we talk about the Chinese media has time and again said that India illegally has occupied Tawang region, and that is why India, whatever names that India has designated to that region, is illegal in nature. So moving on, if we talk about the borders of India with China, we have 3 specific regions to talk about. The western sector, which is actually Ladakh, okay. Then we have the central sector, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, and then we have the eastern sector. Eastern sector is actually coinciding with the MCMAHON line. The most active regions are western region, specifically western region, and eastern region. It is the most, western region is the most fluctuating because of no presence of an agreed upon line that we have with Pakistan, like the LAC. And if we talk about here, the region of Tawang is specifically very important for China. Okay, we will know about that. Why? Now, as you can see, this is the McMahon line, which was proposed pre-independence. And the entire McMahon line is not agreed to by China. And also, specific interest, although it says that the entire Arunachal Pradesh belongs to China, but the specific interest lies in the Tawang region. And we have to understand why is it very important for China. Before that, we should understand the history of Tawang and McMahon line, because that is very important. So in 1911, the imperial kingdom of China collapsed and Tibet after then gained de facto independence. Dalai Lama, the 13th Dalai Lama, fled to British India, and that was in 1910, and again went back to Tibet in 1913, and he established the Kashag, that is the ruling council. Okay, and through that only the Dalai Lama had political influence, the political leadership, and he also declared that Tibet is now independent. But the new republican government of Yuan Shikai in China, of course, rejected those claims, saying that Tibet is an integral part of China. And ultimately what happened, that in eastern region, a group which was loyalist to Beijing, they entered into a ruthless clash between the other groups, and that all happened in the eastern Tibet region. So, as you can see, there were factions divided amongst Tibet and China. And as all this was happening, the British saw it as an important opportunity. Of course, the colonial masters thought any sort of division between any group was an opportunity for them. So they tried to capitalize on it, and that is what happened. Now the British, they decided to put themselves between Tibet and China and said whatever mediation will be done through us. The main reason for that was the fear of Russia. Russia's Tsarist Russia was expanding towards Central Asia, and that was because it was brutally thrashed by Japan in 1905 by Japan's naval power. And after that, the great game started between Britain and Russia. Both were, specifically Britain was very afraid of Russia back then, and because of that it wanted to have a buffer region so that its Britishes had their Indian occupation intact. And then the St. Petersburg Convention on Russia was made to happen, in which it was said that Russia and this convention required both the empires, Russia and Britain, to stay away from Tibet. And whatever conversation was to be done with respect to Tibet will be mediated by China. Although China was not happy with this. Moving on, comes Shimla Conference, because the proper agreement on the border of Tibet was not agreed upon as a buffer zone between Russia and even Tibet and of course India, British India. So what happened, that they started a Shimla Conference in 1913-14. So China was a member, Chinese leadership was a member, and the group of Tibet was a member, Russia and Britain. So what happens, China still was not very happy, because what happened, Tibet's leadership was also in the picture. They did not want Tibet to be present there, because China had made this very clear that Tibet belonged to China. And then what happened, McMahon proposed a division of Tibet into two zones. Inner Tibet, which is of course in China, outer Tibet in China, as in currently with China. Outer Tibet, they said it will be the buffer zone. China was not happy, and China said that they are not going to agree with this. Now China rejected this proposal. Meetings still proceeded in 2014, and maps were exchanged between Tibet and Britain. And a new Indo-Tibetan boundary 20 kilometers north of Tawang was established. Alright, and the Chinese said that even if we are not agreeing to it, why you guys are exchanging maps? We are not agreeing on this. And when this accord was tabled, now an accord was reached that MCMAHON line was proposed and accepted. On 27th April 1914, Chinese representative Shen, he initialed, that means he put his initials but did not sign. There is a difference between the two. So he did not sign the draft and Beijing rejected the amendment, whatever was made 2 days later. That is why MCMAHON line is not agreed by China, and that is why they said that even we did not agree to it, Tibet cannot be the sole representative of the claims of MCMAHON line, because Tibet is a part of China. So that is why they are not asking and they are not agreeing to this. Okay, so this was a brief history of Arunachal Pradesh, whatever happened with respect to Tibet. So there are certain claims that China has, and that is with respect to cultural connections and China's anxiety. Now Tawang region, which is a home to a very large population of Tibet Buddhists, second largest population of Tibet Buddhists in India, and also the Tawang monastery, which was established in 1680-81 to fulfill the wishes of the 5th Dalai Lama. This is being cited by China that we have cultural relations with Tibet. Secondly, we have Monpa Buddhists. Monpa Buddhists are a huge ethnic group with respect to the upper parts of Arunachal Pradesh near Tibet. So what happens that this ethnic group is pro-democracy, and China is very anxious with respect to Monpa Buddhists having a considerable influence over the region. And of course, we know that China is not a democracy. Second is that. And then we have the political significance. When Dalai Lama in 1959, he fled from Tibet to India, he stayed in the Tawang monastery for a while. So again, this shows, according to China, that from Tibet, he stayed in the Tawang monastery. So Arunachal Pradesh belongs to China. The Bhutan factor, if we can see through here, now see, Bhutan is surrounded by Tibet, right? The autonomous region of China. And if China gets an access to Tawang region, so you can see Bhutan will get into the grasp of China a lot than it is already in with respect to territory. Now, in the western section of Bhutan, China has already gotten a lot of railway connections, and it wants to connect Doklam with the other regions of Tibet. So Doklam, we had the Doklam standoff, and that was also one of the ambitions of China to get a region through salami slicing that we have studied so many times. So with respect to Bhutan, strategy is also there, and massive construction of motorable roads have already been done by China over there, and they want to connect Dokla or Doklam to Gamochin, which is under the supervision of Indian Army. And they are expanding network of railways because they want to mobilize the troops much faster, and India needs to be ready for this because we are not in a very rosy picture with China with respect to the western section of our boundary with China, that is the Ladakh region. So, as you can see, what is the significance of Arunachal Pradesh? Now, Arunachal Pradesh, although it is not very, if we talk about it is not very fertile, it is not very economically pleasing for India, but it is strategically very, very important, not only with respect to China, but also Myanmar. It is the largest state in Northeast. It is serving as a zone where we can be very careful with, not only with respect to China, but also with respect to illegal trafficking of cattle, illegal trafficking of human beings, also smuggling, any sort of insurgency. This region acts as a buffer. All right. Also, India wants this region to become economically independent and economically viable so it can be strengthened. Infrastructure, if it gets strengthened over there, such incursions can be checked. First is strategic importance. Secondly, with respect to India, if we talk about, it is the nearest region with China. If India has to launch any sort of missile attacks, Arunachal Pradesh is a must-have with respect to India. If ever China gets its roots into Arunachal Pradesh militarily, it will be very close to the chicken's neck. If I could show you the chicken's neck over here, what is the chicken's neck? It is a very small corridor near Sikkim. Okay, so this is the chicken's neck. So the trade happens through here. Okay, Bangladesh doesn't give a proper pass to India, so the trade happens through here. If Arunachal Pradesh gets into the line, okay, if Chinese gets its incursions over here, this region can be blocked, and that's not a very good picture for India with respect to the strategic impact of it in any case of war if it occurs. Okay, another thing is Arunachal Pradesh is very important culturally. If we talk about its relationship, India's relationship with the Southeast Asian countries, it serves as a route. Arunachal Pradesh serves as a route, especially if we talk about Nampong area, which is a doorway to the Act East policy of India. Again, with respect to Bhutan, this region, the Tawang region, is very important from the perspective of trade, which India with China is getting its hand on. Also, we have to understand that China wants the region to be blocked with respect to trading of India with the Southeast Asian country, as it does not want India to prosper economically. Secondly, we also have to understand the water power with respect to China. The Sangpo River, which is known as Siang, when it enters from Arunachal Pradesh, and then when it enters Assam, after that it is known as Brahmaputra. So, many dams have been constructed by China on Brahmaputra river. So, it can use the water system of the Brahmaputra as a weapon. So, we have to understand it is very important to safeguard this region. If we talk about the drought and flooding of the region, the weaponization of water through dams by China is very easy for China if it gets hands-on in Arunachal Pradesh. Let's move forward and talk about how this is impacting the current scenario, how this move impacts the current scenario. We are already engaged in a very long standoff at Ladakh. Demilitarization of this area is being continuously pondered upon by the Indian army and the Chinese army. This move of getting 15 standardized names for Arunachal Pradesh's region shows that China is not of any less as it was 1 or 2 years ago with respect to its claim over the territories of different countries. So, of course, we should be very vigilant with respect to the current standoff that we have there, and it is trying to divert the attention of India from the western region to the eastern sector, right? Let's move on and talk about what India should do. Now, Tawang, as we know, has already and always been a bone of contention between India and China because of the MCMAHON line, the dangerous MCMAHON line, and the strategic importance that it has. Now, up until 2008, the Dalai Lama, also the Tibetan government, said that Tawang was historically a part of Tibet. Consequently, the officials of the Tibetan government also maintained that Tawang is an integral part of India. Okay, so they did say something like this in 2008, but they changed afterwards, and that the similar treaty should be respected, that of 1914, which made this region of Tawang to come into India's legal boundaries. Let's move forward and talk about India. How should India have another campaign like Make in India to be incongruent with in congruence with Make in Arunachal, so that more and more investment, private as well as foreign direct investment, can take place. Another thing is economic and cultural integration. Economic integration of northeastern region is a must, because if economically a region has a vacuum, it will be filled only with radicalization, short-term money gains, and that is very, very important for India to check from the perspective of national integrity and security. Cultural integration, why? Because until and unless a sense of belongingness of a region can have a congruence with the entire country, something of a sort of nationalism will not be there. And we all know, when nationalism was not there, how the British ruled in India for 200 years. Okay, now let's move forward. What is the way forward? First, we should carefully, mutually and gradually demilitarize the armed forces deployed by both the countries in any region where they are having standoff, because that paves the way for more diplomatic approach, more inducive approach towards talking it out and not fighting it out. And setting up a committee under the Ministry of External Affairs could help to further analyze the historical data. It is a huge process, a long process, but eventually it will help. Increased systemic and sincere conversation, which are promised upon and executed upon, should also be taken. Develop the economic and industrial trade windows. We have already discussed that. Let's move forward and talk about our question. Okay. With respect to the territorial ambitions of China, comment on the recent decision of China to declare standardized names for certain regions of the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh in 250 words. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.